All right, everything's going to be a little different today. I dropped my phone in the bathtub while I was cleaning it, so it was filled and it sunk to the bottom and it was only in there for a few seconds. So right now my phone is at like 40 something percent, and I know this is like probably not the smartest thing to do, but I just wanted to record stuff and do stuff in case my phone was broken or whatever. Just wanted to record some chapters and stuff, before it really shut down on me. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to charge it, and I'm not going to until the end of the day. So I'm going to do as many chapters as I can for like the separate books, and then put them up. So here's Blindsided. 11. Secrets. The clatter of a pickup truck woke Natalie early the next morning. It was a familiar sound coming through her open bedroom window, along with the cool mountain air. Natalie knew it was her Uncle Jack arriving to help with the morning milking. The goats heard the truck, too, and, eager for breakfast and milking to be started, called out from their pens in the barn. That funny and frenetic wah that Nubians made as they thrust their necks forward always made Natalie grin. The good smell of coffee and of bacon drifted into Natalie's room as well. She lay in bed for a bit longer, listening as the kitchen screen door slammed shut and her father and Uncle Jack greeted each other, their voices mixing, fading away as they walked across the yard toward the barn. No doubt Natalie's mother had already left in the family van with coolers full of cheese for the farmer's market in Morgantown, West Virginia, just over the border, half an hour's drive away. Natalie had been given the morning to sleep in, but she often went to the weekend market, helping to bag cheese for customers and slipping in brochures about the mountainside farm. Soon she would go downstairs for something to eat, then straight away to the barn to see Nuisance. But first, there was the test. All along, there had been a secret test. Natalie did the test once a week, and always when no one else was around. She wasn't sure why it had to be done so secretly. It was just the way it had evolved over the years. In the bathroom, Natalie quickly did her eye drops, then found her tinted glasses and put them on. She stood for a moment, using her small circle of vision to check out her reflection in the mirror. The shoulder-length hair mussed by sleep, the wispy bangs, the face with a light sprinkling of freckles she knew were there, but could no longer see. Finally, she turned and walked over to the small bathroom window to her left. The window was framed by cheerful yellow and white checkered curtains. From there, Natalie had always been able to see the lawn border by her mother's flower garden, the maple tree, and the neighbor's back fence. The Stanleys were a nice family with 3 boys and a collie named Curly. They had a small deck on the back of their house and a bright red back door. Odd that a back door was red like that, but that's what made it so great, because it was easy to see. It was her peripheral vision that was disappearing, not the ability to see long distance. But Natalie somehow figured as long as she could see over the fence to that red back door, she was doing okay. Natalie parted the yellow curtains and looked out. For months, it had been impossible for her to actually see anybody in the Stanleys' backyard when she heard voices or the occasional basketball hitting the rim. About a year ago, she had lost sight of the dog, even though she could still hear it barking. But now Natalie could not even see the fence that separated the yards, nor could she see the red door. Had they painted it? Not likely, Natalie thought, realizing that the house itself had become a vague, dark block, framed with an eerie gray haze. Suddenly, a harsh cry pierced the air. Natalie put a hand to her heart and let the curtains fall back. When the sound repeated, there was no question. It was Winston, their hound dog, their guard dog, Llama, issuing his shrill warning. Natalie rushed downstairs. Winston's call meant that something threatened the pasture. Natalie, stay inside, her father called out as he burst through the back door and rushed past her. What is it, Dad? A coyote? Don't know, he called back breathlessly. Natalie stayed out of the way. A bear? Her father didn't answer, but maybe he didn't hear in his rush to the gun safe. Natalie knew every move he was making in the office. He was finding the key hidden in the old library book about goat farming, far right, bottom shelf, behind his desk. After unlocking the safe, he'd see the guns arranged with the rifles to the left. I think this is a decimal point, but this is old Braille, so I'm not sure. Let's see. Okay, let's see. The .270 caliber deer rifle next to the .22, the .22, I'm not sure, which her father used for varmints like groundhogs. To the right were the 12 and 20 gauge shotguns. Bullets and shells were in packages, neatly stacked on a shelf above them. Natalie had learned years ago how to load and fire each of those guns. As he came back through the room, her father carried 2 weapons. Natalie didn't need to ask why. If he thought he could get a good aim, he'd use a rifle. If not, he'd fire the shotgun. Get down, Nat, he told her before he rushed back out the door. Natalie sank to the floor, hugging her knees. She heard and felt her father's feet pound across the yard. Winston called out again, and the goats bleated excitedly from inside the barn. A few minutes later, a gunshot echoed. A second shot followed. Natalie waited on the kitchen floor until her father returned. Nothing but a coyote prowling around, her father said, not sounding too concerned. I think I scared him off. But it reminds me, Nat, I want to show you something out in the barn. Natalie stood and slid her hands down the kitchen counter, looking for her baseball cap, which she put on while her father locked up the guns. Coyotes are getting to be a problem around here, her father said, coming back through the kitchen. Natalie heard the screen door open and assumed he was holding the door open for her, even though she couldn't quite get it in her circle of vision. "Come on, let's go," he urged. Natalie moved quickly toward his voice. Down the steps and out in the yard, however, she hesitated, not knowing what lay ahead. A wheelbarrow? A bucket? A rake? Any number of things could be in the yard. Her father touched her elbow to guide her, but then walked so fast Natalie practically had to jog to keep up. It wasn't exactly sighted guide, and Natalie was nervous, not knowing what was directly in front of her. Her father didn't seem to notice her anxiety. "I've had black bears sniffing around the past month, too," he complained. "What I'm thinking is that I wanted to keep a shotgun tucked away in the barn somewhere. It takes too long. It takes too much time running back and forth to the house." Her father guided Natalie through the barn until they stood by the grain bin. Natalie felt the edge of the cold iron container and could smell the molasses-soaked feed. "Look," he said, "I'm going to put a shotgun up here." He let go of her elbow, and Natalie heard him pushing things around. Metallic cans clinked, and glass bottles rattled. "Right here." "You'd better describe it, Dad," Natalie said, "because I can't see what you're doing." There was a pause. Natalie heard her father sigh. He was not able to accept that she couldn't see that well anymore. "The long cupboard up over the grain bin, Natty. The long cupboard up over the grain bin, Natty." He sounded impatient, and it hurt. "You know, where I keep the salve and the medication." Right, okay. Right, okay." Natalie nodded vigorously. "I know it. I'll put the shotgun up here and stack some extra shells beside it. The safety will be on. I'll show Uncle Jack and your mother and you where it is, but you don't mention to anyone else. You hear?" "Yes, I promise," Natalie replied, amazed, astounded that her father would include her in this knowledge, and loving him all the more for it. But how could she possibly find, load, and fire a gun after this point? She felt her father's arm around her shoulder. He gave it a squeeze. "Just in case," he said softly. "I hope you never have to use it."